At Europe's northern rim, winter can hide the sun while leaving the heavens strangely alive. Above Tromso, green light crosses the darkness as quietly as breath on frozen glass. This is Norway, where coastal villages, modern cities, and Arctic wilderness exist within one long conversation with nature. Beyond the famous fjords lies a more intimate country shaped by work, memory, restraint, and remarkable endurance. Our journey follows the people and places that reveal why beauty here often carries a trace of hardship. The deeper we travel, the more Norway challenges everything its peaceful surface seems to promise. Norway looks narrow on a map, yet crossing it can feel like traveling through several worlds. Its coastline folds around islands, fishing harbors, hidden beaches, and fjords that vanish between mountains. A warm ocean current keeps much of this northern shore milder than visitors might expect. Farther inland, mountains separate communities until tunnels, bridges, ferries, and railways bring them together again. The north also belongs to Sápmi, the ancestral cultural homeland of the indigenous Sami people. Many Norwegian towns feel small and peaceful, with open wilderness waiting just beyond their last houses. The sea gave Norway fish, trade, oil, and wealth, but never made life completely predictable. The real mystery is how this difficult land became such a powerful source of security and belonging. Tromso wakes beneath an Arctic sky that can remain dark long after morning has officially begun. For several winter weeks, the sun never rises above the mountains surrounding the city. Still, alarms ring, children leave home, ferries depart, and warm cafes open their doors. This stubborn normality may be more surprising than the famous lights above the rooftops. Around noon, a thin blue glow touches the horizon without becoming a true sunrise. Because it fades so quickly, that small change of color can feel strangely precious. Students bring music, laughter, and restless energy to streets surrounded by cold black water. Then, on clear nights, the aurora begins to move above the sleeping islands. Science explains it through solar particles meeting gases high inside Earth's atmosphere. But knowing the science does not make those green ribbons feel any less mysterious. Some Old Norse stories link the lights to shining shields carried across the sky. Other northern communities gave them different meanings, from warnings to messages from unseen worlds. None of those stories can be reduced to one simple Arctic legend. Across the harbor, the Arctic cathedral catches the weak light like a pale mountain of glass. Fishing boats continue below, while the sky performs something no schedule can promise. What moves me is how nobody needs to stop living for the moment to feel extraordinary. Tromso has not conquered the darkness, and perhaps that was never necessary. It simply fills the long night with enough human warmth to make waiting worthwhile. Henningsvaer appears to float between open water and mountains rising almost straight from the islands. Bridges and narrow roads hold its scattered pieces together against the restless Norwegian sea. Red cabins crowd the harbor, where every passing boat breaks their reflections into trembling color. There is barely enough flat ground for daily life, yet a football field stands beside the rocks. The village grew around winter cod, when migrating scry drew fishermen from across northern Norway. During the busiest seasons, docks once filled with crews, voices, ropes, and urgent movement. Simple roerboer sheltered visiting fishermen who needed warmth more than comfort after dangerous days offshore. Drying racks still rise near the water, carrying one of Lofoten's oldest working traditions. Nothing here feels easy, and that difficulty makes every ordinary building seem quietly brave. A house, road, field, or dock exists because someone refused to surrender space to the mountains. Storms can arrive suddenly, changing the harbor from peaceful blue to a place of hard choices. Knowing that makes calm weather feel less like scenery and more like a temporary gift. Old industrial buildings now hold galleries, workshops, cafes, and new creative lives. Yet rope, timber, salt, and fishing boats keep the village connected to its original purpose. I love that Henningsvaer does not lock its past inside a museum. It lets old walls change while the harbor continues breathing around them. From the air, the village looks fragile enough to disappear beneath one violent storm. Up close, its endurance becomes the most beautiful part of the view. Before winter daylight reaches the mountains, fishing boats are already moving beyond the harbor lights. From January to April, skrei travel from the Barents Sea toward Norway's northern coast to spawn. For centuries, their return has meant work, food, trade, and survival for coastal families. The boats may look small against the sea, but every crew carries generations of knowledge. Fishermen read wind, current, cloud, and wave patterns before making decisions far from shelter. Once ashore, some cod are sold fresh, while others begin the slow journey toward stockfish. Cold air and coastal wind dry the fish naturally, without artificial heat. That simple method allowed northern food to reach distant European ports long before modern transport. Today, quotas and marine science help protect the fishery from taking more than the sea can replace. Yet behind every regulation remains one private hope that each boat will return safely. Norwegian coastal folklore gave the sea a frightening spirit known as draugen. He was said to rise from drowned sailors and cry before storms or approaching death. Draugen is only a legend, but the grief behind him once visited countless fishing homes. That history changes the meaning of a lone boat climbing a dark wave. The image carries fear, duty, hunger, and love for people waiting on shore. Nothing about this courage needs to be heroic or loudly announced. It lives in repaired nets, frozen hands, early departures, and lights left burning after sunset. Here, the sea is never merely beautiful because it gives life and threatens it together. Trondheim began in 997, when Viking kings needed a strong center beside the Nidelva River. For centuries, the city was called Nidaros, a name still carried by its greatest cathedral. Builders began Nidaros Cathedral around 1070, above the burial place linked to St. Olav. Pilgrims crossed forests and mountains toward it, bringing prayers they may have shared with nobody. That thought gives the cathedral's dark stone a powerful sadness beneath its beauty. Across the river, Backlandet softens the mood with wooden houses, narrow lanes, and welcoming cafes. Students fill the city with music and movement, keeping Trondheim young despite its ancient heart. Cyclists can even use a mechanical lift to climb the steep hill at Brubakken. The little machine feels wonderfully Norwegian because it solves a problem without demanding attention. From the Old Town Bridge, colorful warehouses gather along water, once crowded with trade. Fire, religion, royal power, and commerce have all changed Trondheim more than once. What fascinates me is how pilgrims and cyclists still follow many of the same old paths. History does not feel trapped here, because daily life keeps passing directly through it. Trondheim leaves a gentle warmth, as though the old city has learned to welcome every new century. Across rural Norway, winter can leave only rooftops, chimney smoke, and narrow paths through deep snow. Red, yellow, and white houses become small signs of life beneath the shortened day. Snowplows move before sunrise, reopening roads that the night tried to close. Inside, wool, firewood, candles, and shared food turn warmth into something people create together. Many families escape to a height where simplicity matters more than polished comfort. Water may need carrying, logs need splitting, and weak phone signals allow longer conversations. These small difficulties are chosen, making them different from hardship forced upon a family. Cross-country skis carry both children and grandparents through fields buried beneath winter. The silence looks peaceful, yet surviving it requires planning and deep respect for weather. Old Norwegian stories placed a tiny guardian called the Nisse near farms and barns. At Christmas, families left him porridge, fearing trouble if the proud little spirit felt forgotten. The legend is playful, but its heart is about caring for the home through winter. What stays with me is not the snow, but the stubborn light behind each window. Every glowing room suggests that someone has made the cold feel smaller for another person. These villages remind us that winter strength is rarely built alone. It grows through preparation, open doors, shared food, and the promise that somebody is nearby. Borgund sits between the sea and 7 mountains, where weather rarely stays still for long. Rain darkens the stone streets and makes Borgund's wooden colors glow more deeply. These narrow harbor buildings once held fish, grain, tools, and dreams of distant trade. Hanseatic merchants filled the passageways with languages and goods from across northern Europe. Fire returned again and again, with the Great Blaze of 1702 reshaping much of Borgund. The rebuilt houses now lean toward one another, like tired survivors sharing an old secret. Their crooked walls touch me more than perfection, because every scar proves they remained. Nearby, the fish market keeps Borgund connected to the cold waters beyond the harbor. Mount Fløyen rises above the center, placing forest trails only minutes from crowded streets. The city feels protected by mountains, yet its face has always turned toward the sea. Sailors, composers, merchants, students, and travelers have all carried something through this rainy port. Even bad weather becomes part of Borgund's personality, instead of an excuse to hide indoors. Behind the cheerful waterfront lives a city that has repeatedly rebuilt itself after loss. Its story leads naturally toward another port, transformed by something found beneath the sea. Stavanger first welcomes the eye with white wooden houses, cobbled lanes, and a busy harbor. Before oil changed everything, fishing boats and canning factories carried the city's hopes. Workers packed herring and other catches for markets far beyond the Norwegian coast. Then, in 1969, Ekofisk revealed that enormous petroleum reserves waited beneath the North Sea. Stavanger quickly became the heart of a new offshore world filled with risk and ambition. Engineers, sailors, geologists, and families arrived from abroad, changing the city's voice and rhythm. The Petroleum Museum tells a story of daring machines, dangerous work, and sudden national wealth. Outside, children play on old industrial equipment once designed for a completely different purpose. I find that image unforgettable, because extraction has been turned into curiosity and play. Oil helped fund schools, roads, healthcare, and security, but it also created a difficult debt. Norway now seeks cleaner energy, while many Stavanger livelihoods remain tied to offshore knowledge. There is no painless answer when yesterday's success becomes tomorrow's urgent problem. Colorful streets, food, music, and art show a city larger than its petroleum identity. Still, the unseen platforms remain part of every conversation about Stavanger's future. The city awakens admiration for what people achieved and unease about what achievement may cost. That unresolved feeling makes Stavanger honest, human, and far more interesting than a simple success story. Geirangerfjord cuts so deeply between the mountains that its dark water can feel almost hidden. Ancient glaciers opened this enormous valley before the sea slowly entered the space they left. Cliffs rise from the water with such force that boats seem almost weightless below them. Waterfalls leap from high ledges, breaking into silver mist before touching the fjord. During snowmelt, 7 separate streams appear together on the wall, called the Seven Sisters. Across the fjord, another waterfall faces them with the hopeful name of the suitor. Legend says he asked for their love again and again, yet every sister refused him. Each spring, the melting snow retells that unfinished romance across the cliffs. Nearby, The bridal veil drifts over the rock and changes shape whenever the wind turns. But the most haunting sights may be the abandoned farms high above the water. Families once raised children and animals on ledges that now appear almost impossible to reach. Old stories say farmers pulled up their ladders whenever unwelcome tax collectors approached. The tale is humorous, but the isolation and hard work behind it were painfully real. I feel sadness watching grass reclaim fields that once depended on human hands. Empty houses remember remarkable courage, yet they also mark communities that could not continue. Modern ships pass below slopes where carrying one sack of grain required strength and planning. Geirangerfjord amazes the eye, but the abandoned farms reach somewhere much deeper. They make us wonder how much hardship once stood behind this perfect view. The Flam Railway runs from mountain-high Myrtle down to the tiny fjord village of Flam. In only 20 kilometers, it drops from 867 meters to almost sea level. The train slips through 20 tunnels, deep ravines, lonely farms, and roaring waterfalls. Workers once drilled much of this route through solid rock with exhausting manual labor. At Kjosfossen, water crashes beside the tracks and helps provide electricity for the railway. A mysterious woman may suddenly appear there, dancing as Huldra from old Scandinavian folklore. Huldra was said to enchant travelers and draw them away from familiar paths. Beside the waterfall's thunder, her story feels both beautiful and slightly unsettling. Then the train moves onward, slowing the mountains into a series of careful revelations. I admire how this railway works with the landscape, instead of pretending the climb is easy. Every dark tunnel creates suspense before another valley bursts into view. When Flam finally appears below, the descent feels like a journey between different worlds. Borgund Stave Church has watched over its narrow valley since the late 12th century. Dark wooden walls rise beneath layered roofs, carved gables, and strange dragon-like heads. Strong upright posts, called staves, carry the building and give these churches their name. The builders joined practical skill with symbols inherited from an older Norse world. Dragons seem to guard the roof of a church devoted to the Christian faith. That unusual meeting of beliefs makes Borgund feel mysterious rather than completely understood. Only 28 medieval stave churches remain in Norway today. Layers of protective tar darken the wood and release a scent tied to centuries of care. Inside, the space feels close, shadowed, and far more personal than a vast stone cathedral. I keep thinking about the unknown hands that measured, carved, lifted, and joined every piece. They could never know how long their fragile wooden creation would survive. Borgund's silence brings the past near, while reminding us how much has disappeared forever. Beyond Norway's final roads, animals still move through forest, mountain, tundra, coast, and pack ice. Moose step from eastern woodland at dusk with a size that can stop traffic instantly. Wild reindeer cross southern mountains, while northern herds remain deeply connected to Sami life. Musk oxen wander Dovrefjell, looking like survivors from a far older Earth. White-tailed eagles circle above coastal islands, where thousands of seabirds return to nest. Puffins brighten dark sea cliffs with colorful bills and wonderfully serious expressions. Whales follow food through northern water, sometimes rising beside boats without warning. Svalbard belongs to Arctic foxes, reindeer, walruses, and polar bears built for severe cold. Old Norse stories gave Odin two ravens, named Hugin and Munin, meaning thought and memory. Their legend feels fitting when ravens watch travelers from rocks across an empty valley. These animals create wonder, but admiration should never become a reason to disturb them. Moving too close can interrupt feeding, waste precious energy, and create real danger. What I feel most strongly is respect, mixed with relief that such wild lives remain. Sometimes the finest encounter is the one where the animal never changes its path. Røros grew after copper was found beneath this frozen highland during the 17th century. For more than 300 years, miners entered darkness while winter pressed against the town above. Today, its wooden streets belong to a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Low houses gather closely together, as if still protecting one another from the cold. Beyond them, black slag heaps remember furnaces, smoke, exhausted forests, and generations of heavy labor. Miners worked underground while families protected animals and food through brutally long winters. The copper company influenced almost everything, from housing and trade to rules governing daily life. Røros Church opened in 1784 and became known as the pride of the mining town. Its grand size came from mountain wealth, but workers carried the true price of that wealth. That knowledge makes the beautiful old streets feel more complicated and more deeply human. Inside the mines, darkness quickly removes the comfortable distance between visitors and the past. Local foods still preserve habits from a time when wasting anything could threaten survival. Røros leaves me admiring its endurance while grieving for lives reduced to production records. This town never makes winter look easy, and that honesty is part of its power. Svalbard lies far beyond mainland Norway, surrounded by Arctic water and long stretches of emptiness. Longyearbyen rests inside a bare valley, where mountains seem to watch every human arrival. Coal mining built much of the settlement before research, tourism, and education changed its future. People from many countries now share this remote town, creating warmth in an unlikely place. During polar night, the sun disappears and darkness covers every hour. From late April until late August, the midnight sun creates the opposite problem by never leaving. These extreme seasons can change sleep, mood, work, celebration, and even the meaning of time. Without trees, houses look exposed against rock and snow, almost as temporary as tents. Svalbard reindeer walk slowly near town, saving every piece of energy the climate might steal. Polar bears may appear anywhere, but they must never be chased for a photograph. Beyond the settlements, local guides and proper protection are essential rather than optional. That rule reminds us how quickly human confidence can disappear in true wilderness. Above Longyearbyen, the global seed vault protects backup seeds from collections across the world. Behind its simple entrance lies one of humanity's most hopeful promises to the future. I find it moving that so much life is protected inside a mountain surrounded by ice. Svalbard brings miners, scientists, wildlife, travelers, and fragile dreams into the same frozen landscape. Yet even the ice beneath those dreams is changing faster than anyone can ignore. The clearest warning arrives when the frozen coast suddenly begins to break. Glaciers cover roughly 60% of Svalbard and shape almost every distant view. Where the ice reaches the sea, hidden cracks can release enormous frozen walls. A collapse may begin quietly before the glacier falls with a deep and delayed roar. Waves roll outward while fresh blue ice glows briefly above the dark water. Calving is natural, but warmer conditions are changing many Arctic glaciers with alarming speed. Svalbard has already experienced some of the strongest temperature changes recorded across the planet. Retreating ice changes coastlines, wildlife habitat, travel routes, and familiar hunting grounds. The sight is spectacular, yet knowing the larger story makes celebration feel wrong. A few seconds of beauty can reveal a loss unfolding across decades. That painful contrast gives the footage more meaning than visual shock alone. The thunder inspires awe, but it can also sound like the Arctic surrendering ground. When the water becomes calm again, the changed coastline leaves a heavier silence. Nordkapp rises above Magaroya, facing the cold and restless Barents Sea. Its cliff stands more than 300 meters above water, often hidden by Arctic fog. It is Europe's northernmost famous road destination, though not the continent's absolute northernmost point. Nearby Nivskeloden reaches slightly farther north, a detail many visitors never expect. English sailors named the North Cape while searching for an eastern sea route during the 16th century. Sami communities had already lived and traveled here long before foreign maps carried that name. During summer, the midnight sun can hover above the sea without completing a normal sunset. Travelers gather around the globe monument while wind and cloud constantly rewrite the view. Many arrive expecting victory at Europe's edge, yet the landscape refuses to feel conquered. Its emptiness humbles me because the ocean continues far beyond every road and monument. Fog may erase the horizon within minutes, leaving visitors surrounded by pure whiteness. Nordkapp feels less like an ending and more like a doorway into unanswered distance. Oslo rests beside its fjord, with green hills rising behind a bright modern waterfront. The capital feels surprisingly approachable, with trams, bicycles, ferries, and walking routes linking its neighborhoods. The medieval city once stood farther east, before a terrible fire changed everything in 1624. King Christian IV rebuilt beside Akershus fortress, and the new settlement became Christiania. In 1925, the capital took back the older name of Oslo. Today, medieval ruins stand near apartments, glass offices, museums, beaches, and swimming platforms. The Opera House lets everyone walk across its sloping roof and look over the harbor. That simple freedom turns an impressive building into part of ordinary city life. Nearby, the Munch Museum holds art filled with loneliness, fear, longing, and unmistakable human tension. Vigeland Park offers another emotional world, through figures embracing, arguing, playing, aging, and grieving. Their open feelings challenge the quiet restraint often connected with Norwegian culture. Above the city, Holmenkollen carries ski history and wide views across the fjord. A short metro ride can replace busy streets with forest paths and winter snow. That closeness makes nature feel woven into Oslo rather than placed outside it. Some residents ski after work, while others enter hot saunas beside the freezing fjord. The city shows wealth through clean transport, public space, schools, libraries, and thoughtful design. Norway's petroleum fund saves and invests resource wealth for people not yet born. But that success raises a difficult question about building tomorrow with money earned from fossil fuels. Oslo has no perfect answer, though its changing harbor shows a serious wish to move forward. The Norwegian tradition of dugnad brings neighbors together for unpaid work serving a shared community. I love this modest idea because beautiful cities depend on people who choose to participate. Oslo's deepest strength may be the room it leaves for ordinary lives within national prosperity. After wild seas, empty farms, dark mines, and breaking glaciers, that human scale feels comforting. Norway finally appears not as a perfect country, but as one still trying to deserve its good fortune. Norway's distances are larger than they appear, so choose one region instead of rushing across the entire country. Pack waterproof outerwear and insulating layers because mountain and coastal weather can change within a short period. Use the National N-Tour Planner for trains, buses, ferries, and connections, especially outside the largest cities. Reserve popular scenic railways, fjord cruises, and summer accommodation early when traveling during peak months. Winter drivers should expect ice, darkness, closed mountain passes, tolls, ferries, and rapidly changing road conditions. The right to roam allows responsible access to uncultivated land, but camping requires distance, care, and respect for residents. Northern lights require clear darkness and patience, while midnight sun travel demands eye masks and flexible sleep routines. In Svalbard, never leave settlements independently without proper knowledge, protection, and an experienced local guide. Norway leaves me with wonder, but also with respect for the labor and difficult choices hidden inside its beauty. Its fjords, cities, legends, animals, and Arctic communities reveal a country still being shaped by sea, ice, and memory. Perhaps the most compelling journey is not toward the farthest north, but toward a deeper understanding of responsibility. Share your answer in the comments. Which Norwegian place or story stayed with you most strongly, and why? Please like this film, share it with another curious traveler, and help more people discover World Untold. Subscribe to World Untold, because many extraordinary places are still waiting beyond the familiar map.